on January 7th. Special guests to talk about the show. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them. Starting on my left, we have showrunner and executive producer Todd Harthan. Creator and executive producer Goddard. And then we have stars Daniel Sunjata, Deniz Akdeniz, Killam, Amirah, sadly, Caitlin Olsen couldn't join us tonight, but I think that Drew has some remarks from her that he wants to share.
Yes, and look, I can say, having worked with Caitlin now for 2 years, the idea that she would miss something like this is not remotely something that is in her character at all. She must be bleeding out of the eyes. But for what it's worth, she wrote a message for you all. Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry to have missed tonight, but my body has betrayed me and allowed itself to get sick. I am livid. I'm sad to say to your faces how much I appreciate your ongoing support of this show that I am so proud of. Side note, this is how you know Todd and I didn't write this, because that is a dangling participle. She's sick. It's not that big. I hope you're enjoying it as much as we love making it, and how incredible are the rest of this cast and these creative forces. I obviously couldn't do it without them, and I'm so incredibly grateful to be elevated by their talent. This is really for the best, though, because had I brought germs into the same building as Todd Harthan, he would have screamed like a toddler and ejected himself out of the nearest window. Please enjoy as he tries to discreetly apply hand sanitizer to at the very thought. Have a wonderful evening, and I promise I will see you next time.
I thought I was the germaphobe.
It all finds its way on screen.
What hand sanitizer? It's lavender.
You said it's true. You said you could have thrown yourself out the window, but you won't.
There's no windows in here.
For safety. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. Drew and Todd, I want to start with you. High Potential is adapted from a French show, and I wanted to ask what inspired you to bring it to an American audience, and if there was any big cultural differences looking at it through this show through an American lens.
Yeah, I've done a few adaptations, both in movies and TV, and I always start from a place of just loving it. I try not to adapt anything I don't love. And so I didn't really intellectualize it. I just saw the show and thought it was really special and tried to protect the things I thought made it special. I hadn't seen this type of show told through the lens of a single mom. It felt to me like that is something unique and special, and felt very necessary right now in our world. And it sort of had the same delightful humanism that I think you see in the pilot in the show, where there's not a lot of judgment of all the people. The people act decently to one another at every turn, and I really responded to that. And so, I mean, truthfully, no, I don't know that there was a lot of things that were French other than, just the French names. Like, it really hinged on humanism, and I think that transcended any cultural differences.
Morgan is a very brilliant character, and often when we see that type of character on screen, they don't feel quite so relatable, and I'm curious how you made her feel so down to earth and relatable despite having a high IQ and she's kind of just a whiz.
I mean, it really started with the family. I really felt strongly that if this show was going to work, that the family needed to have equal weight them to the police station. I think a lot of times shows in the procedural world, what they deal with is the cops are, you occasionally see their family and it's almost cosmetic. And what I felt strongly, and Todd and I talk about a lot, is the family is the show. There's no A stories and B stories on this show. It's one story. Just because it may be in a minor key on the family one time, but another episode, they're front and center, the theme is the same. You guys just watched the pilot. It's very much like, oh no, what she's going through at home makes you realize she wants to take this job to be better for her kids. We're tying this thing together in that way, and we're being aggressive about it. And quite frankly, part of that comes down to casting exquisite actors to play her children, her ex-husband. Like, it's without question.
100%.
And to see, and we work really hard to let them shine and see them be fully realized so that it isn't just this thing that is in the background, it's front and center.
Yeah, Daniel and Deniz, I want to ask you about the chemistry with Caitlin on the show. And, you know, right off the bat in the pilot, you can sense a great back and forth between her and these detectives. And I'm curious how you started to curate that with her.
Did you have nothing? Yeah, no, it was, I mean, Caitlin's a powerhouse. And see, she just sort of came in and, again, I think, like Drew said, the casting was so spot on. Everyone had their little piece and it came together itself organically. And we were just really sort of thrown into the deep end altogether, and somehow it all just worked, and we somehow like each other and don't hate each other. I think that helps.
I'm just learning that Dennis is Australian.
Yeah.
Is this surprising to you guys too? Because he is a good actor.
I would chime in and say that a lot of it was also on the page, and also when you shoot a pilot, we shot the pilot in Vancouver in March of 2023, you have a lot more time to shoot a pilot than you do to have to shoot every subsequent episode, and that gave us time to, I think, find the chemistry between the cast and to gel personally as well as professionally on set. I had never met Caitlin before. I was a huge fan of hers, you know, going back years, Hacks, and you know, obviously Always Sunny in Philadelphia. We were on the same network on FX for a while, but we had never really met. So just trying to figure out, I knew that the chemistry between Karadec and Morgan was going to be one of the key elements to the show. How much of a curmudgeon should I play versus, you know, this kind of reluctant acquiescence to her obvious genius. And so trying to find that, you know, was kind of probably the biggest obstacle, but Caitlin made it very easy. She's very, very easy to work with, and you know, you never feel like you're acting with your boss.
And I think you're right with the Vancouver, the pilot being shot in Vancouver, it felt like we were like at camp. Like we were all like away from our families, away from responsibilities, and like forced together at camp for a month to do this pilot.
Going off of that, Drew and Todd, I want to kick it back to you for a second. Caitlin is known for her comedy. She is a powerhouse in comedy. What made you confident she could lead this family drama?
I think, in general, I've never really seen the difference. I feel like if you can shine in comedy, it's a wonderful sign that you can shine in drama, and vice versa. Like, I do feel like we are all funny people, we're all dramatic people. Talent is talent, and people can find these ways in. You just have that feeling, you know, like from watching Caitlin, even when she's being funny on something as broad as Sunny, it's always human, which is really hard to do. And you could just see, like, if she can break my heart, acting opposite Danny DeVito crawling out of a couch, up, like, you're like, all right, we'll be fine. You know, like, I just learned to trust that you just find exquisite actors and we figure it out. Like, I've always bristled at the idea that we have to divide the world between comedy and drama.
Amirah and Matthew, how has it been to figure out what the family dynamic looks like?
You know this? Sure. Okay. Oh boy, no pressure. You know, Caitlin is so great to work with, and she's like a lead. She's like, it's hard to explain. She's like such a good role model, and to be able to just, work with her and see everything she does, she really helps lead this entire show, obviously. But on top of that, just being so kind and genuine. But it's been a lot of fun to work with her and Amirah and everyone else.
Yeah, I feel like Caitlin is very naturally nurturing and motherly, so playing her daughter hasn't been very hard, and it feels very natural to do. And especially because Ava and Morgan's dynamic is very interesting, and they kind of butt heads at times. But I feel like it adds a nice vulnerability to the storyline that I think is it's a beautiful story that's being told.
And it's also I forgot to say this earlier, but you're right. Thank you. It's especially the bond with me and Caitlin, with that having that high IQ, and it's like you have your own special moments, and I think that's really special and helps lead those family moments, and it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Taran, kind of going off of that, what has it been like to work with these kids and, play Caitlin's ex-husband?
Yeah, I mean, both of these actors are some of the finest talent I've ever worked with. But Caitlin deserves a lot of credit for setting the tone. And I knew Caitlin personally as a parent first. Our kids went to the same school. So seeing her name attached to this was very exciting for me. And she does a great job of sort of making it, I feel, a safe place to explore. She cares, and as a leader, that's really, really all you can hope for on set.
So far, what has been one of the most compelling things you've learned while working on the show, especially from that crime procedural standpoint, if the detectives want to chime in?
I never really grew up watching a lot of procedural TV. My dad and I used to watch Hill Street Blues together, like back in the day. And I can't say that if I had had a magic wand 5 years ago that's what I would have wanted to do. My mind and my heart have been changed. I see procedural television. It's a genre of sorts. And one of the things that's amazing about our show is that we're kind of like expanding the genre with what Caitlin obviously brings to the show. But kind of look at it as a sandbox. So there's boundaries, right? You're either in it, you're in the genre, or you're outside of the genre. But within the sandbox, there are infinitesimal grains of sand, and you can build all kinds of sandboxes. So the mind blower for me was figuring out that you could find freedom within the stricture of form. You know what I mean? And without being able to do that, I think it would become monotonous. It would become boring. But there's never been a boring day on our set for me.
Biggest thing I learned was how bad of a detective I would be. Like, it's really hard. The things that we figure out and that Caitlin figures out, it's really hard. That's a lot of like tension and detail.
I have to agree, Dennis. I think you.
Yeah, I don't think it would be great. I'm not going to speak for you, but I personally would not be a good detective.
Well, cooking that stuff up in the writer's room is also hard.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't come naturally. Drew, right? I mean,
I just write cop stuff.
Yeah, there is a scene in the pilot where she points out the wind wouldn't be blowing from that direction. I would never. What?
Yeah, to be fair, that was in the French show, so
So credit to
I can't really take any credit for that.
Kind of going off of that, though, Todd, I'm hoping you can expand upon the research that goes into some of these crimes and, solving them, especially because this show doesn't feel like a ripped from the headlines type of procedural. So how do you kind of figure out what those cases are going to look like?
oh man, they're all so different. Yeah, I mean, we started from this place, and we're drafting off of the pilot. And I think that each episode, the question we ask ourselves is, before we even get into like the puzzle that we're going to solve, or who lost their life, or who they attempt to kill, is how is this story and this case can reflect back on not just Morgan, but some of our cops as well, the people that have to take these stories home with them every night. So for me, it's usually what's the emotional component, and then after that, it's why is this case is going to tug at your heartstrings, going to be really, really, really hard to solve, and keep audiences on the edge of their seat to go, wow, are they really going to be able to bring some semblance of peace to whoever's mother, brother, sister, or son was attacked or murdered. So from a baseline, it's just, why do you care? And then after that, it's, why is it really, really, really hard to solve? And then we lean on lots of research so that we don't get lazy with these cases being too easy to solve. We have somebody with HPI, so it's like, if it's too easy, she's going to solve it in the first 12 minutes, and it's going to be a really short show. This, I will tell you that when I came onto this, I wildly underestimated how hard it was going to be to build each hour of it. to make each one of them their own gem, to give each one of them their own identity. And it's a wonderful challenge, but it's definitely the hardest show I've ever done.
And I wanted to chime in too, because I think one of the amazing things that Todd has done when he came on as our new showrunner is adds these levels of dimensionality to, like, yes, she's a high potential intellectual, but if she was able to do everything on her own, then there would be no necessity for the bullpen. There would be no necessity for Oz, for Daphne, you know, or for Lieutenant Soto. So striking a balance between her obvious genius and what the detectives bring, you know, in their own way, their own individual talents, and how that all kind of gels together. I think that was a very tight balancing act that I think you and the writers' room have done a fantastic job doing. Because there was a point where we were like, okay, well, why are we here? And that by the end of the season, we know exactly why we're here, and that's thanks to you.
We have talked quite a bit about how, of course, the show is a drama, but it's also very funny, and the tone does swing back and forth all the time, you know? She's going from solving this very difficult case to then walking outside and swinging her purse at an officer, and she ends up in a cell a couple minutes later. I'm curious, first with the writers, how you balance that tone, and then I want to also hear from the cast about, you know, balancing the tone on screen as well to make both of those play so well.
Yeah, the truth is I've spent my entire career in that, whatever that middle section is. I started on a show called Buffy the Vampire Slayer last year. And we were, you know, we just learned, like, okay, we can be really broad, and we can be heartbreaking, and we can be terrifying, and we can do it in the same scene. So just knowing that you can is part of the battle. But the other trick I learned there is the emotional reality of what the characters are going through has to feel real. And if that reality feels real, you can get away with murder. Like, you can take crazy swings. I think the thing people get wrong a lot is they think, oh, there's jokes in here, lean on the jokes. But I've always said, if the jokes don't work, we can cut them. But if they're not behaving like people behave in that situation, our scene is dead. And I think that's the secret to it. It really hinges on these actors finding the humanity in their characters, and if they do that, we can put them in any scene, in any situation, and it's delightful and terrifying and heartbreaking and all of the above.
Yeah, I mean, one of the gifts of this particular cast from, you know, and obviously Caitlin has it in spades and everybody else does too, which is, you know, when you get into a writer's room, you go, oh, there's nothing that we can't do. Aside from keeping it, you know, not R-rated, you know, the range that you have, including, you know, Amirah and Matthew. I mean, the range of these two actors is pretty great, and so it doesn't matter, you know, when we're in there breaking an episode that might be a little bit lighter in tone or a little bit more serious in tone. When you watch all 13 episodes of this show, I mean, we really take you on a roller coaster ride tonally. But it really is true to life. And to Drew's point, it's like there's, you know, to me, life it's hilarious, it's absurd, it's awkward, it's heartbreaking, it's all those things. And when you have a cast that can play all those different levels, then you can go into an episode and take the audience on a ride that really does feel grounded and real and raw and all those wonderful things. So to me, there's no limitations on this show, which is why, you know, it was such a joy. Like, every episode was like this, like a gem, right? And we could do whatever we wanted. And then you throw it to them, and you're like, well, you know, they in many respects make it better when you got to the stage. So yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely to work on.
And Amirah gave one of the most emotionally powerful performances in the last episode that aired before we took this break. The Assault on Precinct 13 is what we're basically calling, but Amirah, you killed. I was at home like, you and Caitlin together, and Matthew, you're amazing too, but you smashed that.
Yeah, going off of that, is there a particular scene or particular episode that each of you individually are particularly proud of?
Definitely episode 7, the last episode before we took the little fall break. that episode was so fun to film. I liked being able to step outside from like the home life and get to be in the precinct and work with the rest of my cast who I hadn't gotten to work with. I hadn't done a scene with some of them, and so that was nice and different. And then Caitlin also just made those emotional scenes so easy and like relaxing. Like I remember before we filmed the big scene where we're like crying at each other, she kind of just like took my hands and like took deep breaths with me and was like, "We got this, like it'll be great." And then we started rolling and it just all kind of came out. And so I'm very, very proud of that episode.
Can I say something? Okay. One that I think for me is it hasn't came out yet, and they've mixed around and put them a few episodes different together. So I don't know which one it is for sure. But it's one where I have a really special moment with Caitlin, and same how you kind of said with your emotional scene. She's just has such a welcoming tone, and she's so open to everything, and she'll just take you over to the side and make sure you feel good with everything and all the scenes, and it's really a really special moment. But then there's also I have in the same episode where I get to play with Amirah, and because she's normally such like a moody teenager, it was really fun. Not in real life, of course, but it was really fun to have that like different sort of tone to it.
I mean, I'm enjoying all of the episodes because, to Amirah's point, the family is a little compartmentalized. So I'm getting to kind of, you can read it on the page, but to see it played out is such a different experience. So along with all 20 million plus 7 across all digital platform audience members in all demos. No, I'm really enjoying, and Todd's point too, and everything, what I'm most proud of being a small part of this series is that it's elevating off the page. The stories start so strong and are so great, but every episode that I've seen thus far, just seeing it actualized, it steps it up, in so many degrees, and is really it's a special show. I'm proud to be a part of it.
I remember you guys just watched the pilot, so I remember shooting the scene where they're in the bathroom, and it's Daniel and Caitlin, and it's a deceptively hard scene because, for starters, we're in an actual tiny bathroom, and that scene, to kind of what Daniel was talking about earlier, where I think in a traditional cop show, his role in that scene is to sort of be the sort of hard charging detective, right? And we sort of set that up. He's sort of antagonistic to Morgan for the first half to sort of make the audience feel comfortable, because I knew we were going to flop that dynamic, and that dynamic flops in that scene. So when you watch that scene, the two of them are exquisite because they both start really amped up at each other. They're both hilarious in that scene. Like when you guys are, and Alethea, our director, shot it so exquisitely because we're moving in closer as the tension's building, and then it shifts. Because what actually starts happening is Daniel sees her, right? And she sees him see her. And it's not in the dialogue, it's in the performance. And by the end of that scene, they're partners. And I remember watching that happen in that small bathroom in Vancouver and going, we have a show. And it's those moments that you're chasing as an artist in this business when you're just looking for that magic, and watching the two of them become partners over the course of 3 minutes. I felt it, and I go, we can do a whole series because of these two right now. And it was really special. It was really special.
I remember that.
How has it been to see the audience reception to the show? I know Taran joked a bit about the ratings, but it is ABC's most watched new drama this season.
This is true. Literally 2 weeks ago, Mary Lou Henner came up to me and was like, you got to put me on that show, because I don't know if you know this fact about her, but she has this incredible recall, and she said that High Potential is as close to a portrayal of what she actually has And so that one, it was just exciting to talk to Mary Lou Henner because I'm a big fan. But it was such a great compliment to be like, no, as elevated a concept as this is, there are people who are watching it and seeing it and going like, no, I can relate. That's really me. And also, she wants to play Caitlin's mom on the show.
Guys, keep this quiet. That's a very good idea. So don't tell anyone what's happening.
It's kind of crazy seeing, I mean, like people from different walks of life that you wouldn't expect that have really been drawn to the show. They're like friends and family that are just like that watch, you think have completely different interests, have all unified around this one. So it's kind of cool to see how it brings so many people together to this specific show that can do that.
Yeah, it feels like the power of broadcast television, right? And that I'm hearing from family members and long lost friends that it's so great to be on a network television show, and that's still, you know, the way that a vast majority of people consume content, and that they're seeing it and that they're responding and enjoying it is really incredible.
Yeah, I mean, for me, selfishly, it's, you know, you get a great cast and crew for a show that shoots in Los Angeles, which is a lovely thing, right? Amazing actors, amazing directors, amazing community here. You know, there's an infectious quality to the show. There's a charm to the show that is in the actual fictional TV show that we're making, but it's behind the scenes too. And it's a lovely place to show up every day, and if we get to continue to do it for many seasons to come, you know, for me, you know, the idea that it's found a meaningful audience and has ticked up each week, you know what I mean? That's pretty rare. That's the first time in my career. I've been doing this for 20 years where each week you go, wait, more people watched it. That's a lovely thing. So it's just, you find this little TV family and it's working, and it's rewarding for everybody to keep their jobs and to create more jobs, right? You know, lots of guest stars and new recurring roles coming, hopefully in success, and it's good for everybody. It's good for everybody in this panel, but beyond that, we have an incredible, massive crew of people that make us pull this off every week, and it's a lovely thing.
CK Bellado, are you in the house? Yeah, my man. Stand up for a second. So in episode number 4, I think it aired as episode number 2, we did an action sequence in a kitchen where the sprinklers are on, and the stunt man made me look like I was a tough guy. That's me and this guy right here. That's me and this guy. Let's go!
We mentioned this a bit at the beginning of the conversation, but of course Morgan is a single mom, and she's a very resilient character. And I'm curious, like, how you think that the character just speaks to resiliency and empowerment, especially for women, and having such a strong lead female character.
I mean, I have 3 children of my own. I don't know how any single parent could do that job. I do not. I'm grateful every day that I have my wife as a partner, but it engenders tremendous empathy to know and to think about what single moms go through. When I looked at the pilot in the French show, that's what jumped out at me of, oh, this is a voice we need to get out there and protect and listen to it. And as writers, it's our job to find single parents, talk to them, listen to them, hear how their experience is unique, and put it into the show. And then Caitlin would tell you the same thing, that like that's why she wants to play this part, because it is a voice that is not out there, and she is trying, she lives this for us. She is not just our lead, she is also our producer, and it is not a cosmetic title. She's weighing in on every script, on every cut, on every casting decision, and she takes the responsibility of who she is playing very, very, very seriously. And I think that can't help but just bleed through the screen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's also the situation that a lot of our audience are in too, right? I mean, yes, she's a single mother, but I just think that in general, just the idea of a household where you're raising kids and you're worried about where the next paycheck's going to come from, or how you're going to pay your bills or put food on the table, all those things. is something that, it's how I grew up, and I relate to it. And I do think that there's, that will never go away in this show. Like, that is just part of her identity, which is, I'm going to go out and be a consultant and help solve cases, but ultimately, she's a mother who's there to sort of protect and raise two wonderful children. And then I think by extension of that, I think one of the things that we continue to preserve and that we will preserve in this series is this wonderful relationship she has with Ludo, right? I think there's this trope that you can fall into where it's like, oh, well, tension is good for television, so let's have them at each other's throats and, custody and these kinds of things. And yes, that's also a real part of the world, and we can tell those stories, but I think there's just something lovely about these two people who are willing to move mountains to create an environment that's good for their children. And I think that I just love those stories. And I was just saying to Drew before we came out here, I'm like, man, if we do however many more of these episodes, it's like that, the strength of this family and the charm of and the bond between these children and these two parents who aren't in a relationship anymore has to continue to be like one of the main arteries of this show. Because I love it, and I think it does feel like a fresh approach to telling those stories.
I love the scene where she's negotiating. She's like, I'll take 20% more and I want childcare. I was like, yeah, give her 50% more. She plays it so well, but I also just love seeing, like a strong female negotiating on television like that.
And again, then we should mention Judy, who plays Soto, Judy Reyes, who is one of our many, many, many not-so-secret weapons. But similarly, what you don't see is two women listening to each other. Like, the show ends intentionally with saying, you got to deal. Because it is, I think, and I've been guilty of this, like we have been so indoctrinated into conflict equals drama, right? And so we don't always see scenes where two reasonable people disagree and figure it out together and support each other. And it was really, we fought really hard to make sure that was the ending of the show for a reason, because it sort of said, this is the mission statement here. This is not, we're trying to do something different with how we see a police captain and the wild card, right? We're changing the genders of what those we see traditionally. We are trying to question ourselves at every turn of what that would mean and what we've accepted and what is wrong and what we want to push back on. Like, our network has been lovely and supportive. At the beginning of this pilot, they said I had so many arguments about whether or not Caitlin should have love interests in the pilot. They kept saying, we need love interest, we need love interest, we need love interest. And I kept saying, I do not want to define her that way. I think it's really important that actually we're saying something different. That doesn't mean she won't have love interests. We will, she's a human being. We want to show her as a three-dimensional person. But for the pilot, I want her to stand on her own and say that that's what we're here to do, decisively. And to their credit, they heard it. I had to play the shame card to get them to hear it. I did, and I understand where they were coming from, because I've sat in test screenings and people love stories. They love it, and so I don't think anyone had any ill will. It's just I felt it was important. We all felt it was important to say let's show her as a mother first. Let's show her as a genius second, and then the rest of it we'll worry about later.
So I think we've had a bit of fun during this conversation, but I want to have a little bit more. Does anybody have a memorable or funny behind-the-scenes moment that they think about while
I ate 14 donuts in one scene, and then they cut around it. And so I had like a bite, which is also fine, but it was just like I've never consumed that many donuts at once. And then I didn't feel as bad as I thought I would, because we still had a full day of filming to go. It was like the second scene of the day. But yeah, that was fun in a way, I guess.
My answer to the question would be this scene from the episode you just watched where Caitlin, Matthew, Amirah, and myself are in the squad car, and she's and then we got an APB out on Two Extreme Cuties. That one, yeah. They would just I had to try so hard to keep a straight face while we were shooting that scene, especially when they say, "Hey, can we turn on the siren?" And I'm like, "No," and then, bam, it's on, and so that's mine.
Okay. So this was in one of the episodes where. Oh no! It was the one. It was the one where she did something different every time, and when your step boyfriend comes in and she gives Morgan the sodas, thinking it would be Ava, and she had a different reaction every single time, and I was trying so hard to hold in a laugh because they were so different and unique every time. It was really a special, really funny moment.
Me and Caitlin had a moment. I think it was at the end of episode 5. It was the episode where you and her snooped through my room and found birth control, and it was this big thing. And at the end of the episode, she comes in to confess that they had found that in my room or whatever. And we had a conversation about it, but at the end, we had this pillow fight, and that wasn't scripted. That wasn't a thing that was supposed to happen. She was supposed to just get up and walk out. And then I think we rehearsed it, and she just kind of started hitting me with the pillow, and it became this thing, and I was trying so hard not to laugh when we filmed it, because it was so fun. Yeah, it was my favorite memory.
Many. Amirah driving was really fun.
Oh yeah.
That was a really good one.
I forgot about that one.
Old car. I mean, it is an old car, and what was great. Okay, this is my favorite moment. I've just remembered. Amirah got in. It hadn't been turned on, and it was silent. And she's like, "Is it on?" And that was hilarious to me because it meant she has never in her life been in a gas-consuming, engine-driven car. She's only been in Prius, Tesla, electrical cars, and the silence did not indicate to her the fact that the car had not been turned on yet.
I didn't get it.
But to her credit, she was amazing. And even the transpo stunt people were like,
Surprised I didn't crash the
not
car.
bad, not bad. All right. Yeah, that was great.
Was that your Chops impression?
I can't get past 14 donuts. That's nuts.
I don't think we wrote that scene.
No, it was the donuts came in. I was like, well, I'm gonna eat one of these. There's donuts in front of me. It was my own fault. I made the choice to be like, let's eat it. I think Javicia was like, I'm just gonna take one bite and put it away.
Because the guy eats grilled chicken, quinoa, and mixed vegetables 5 times a day, every day, 7 days a week. So of course you're gonna eat donuts when you it's usually an excuse.
What are you most looking forward to about this return from the fall break, and what's in store for the rest of the season?
How much can we give away?
Not a lot. I'll kick that off. There's 6 more to come when we come back, and I guess what I'm excited about is it's a crazy roller coaster ride. It really is. I mean, when I touched on it earlier about, we can do these episodes that each have their own identity and play with tone. We're really doing that in the back half. I guess what I'm most proud about and what I'm most looking forward to is how the relationships between Morgan and this found family really evolve, because they really do deepen in the back half. And I think you really do get a better sense of this selfless friendships that are developing. And I think that we did a pretty good job of really leaning into that. And I just absolutely love our finale. Our season 1 finale is, James Roday Rodriguez directed it. These guys crushed it. It was a wildly ambitious episode. It's got a couple of cliffhangers that I think are just gonna really punch people in the face in a way that I really appreciate. So I can't wait till we come back. I think people are gonna be really excited.
I'm excited to see more of the family story. We don't see it again. We read it, and it gets elevated when they do it. So watching it every week, it's like this is the show I'm watching because I've seen all this other stuff. I was there for it. You know what I mean? But this is the one that's really exciting. That family drama, that family story is really what brings me back.
Amirah and Matthew, do you have anything you're excited about?
I think I'm excited to find out more about Ava's dad, which we talk about in the back half. There's really nice scenes with me and Caitlin talking about, the past, and I'm excited to just kind of see more into Ava's childhood, I feel like, is going to be nice.
I would agree, by the way. I think that particular plot line, that's, it's a procedural, but that is the one serialized plot line that I think is the most interesting and the most fascinating and probably has our fans most on the edge of their seats. They always want to find out about Ava's dad. Always
Me too,
want to find
honestly.
out.
I want to know.
So do I.
And I feel like everyone's just saying this, but I'm gonna say it again. The underlining tone of him, we just don't know what's happening to him, and I don't know, and I'm really excited to find out. And you just by knowing about that and having that knowledge of the underlining thing that eventually it should be revealed, I'm like on the edge of my seat waiting for it. But yeah.
So if any of you have any ideas on who that dad could be, if you could just jot them down and give it to me after the show, Todd and I would really appreciate it.
I was only half joking.
Approach them with your pitches. Well, thank you all so much for joining.
Thank you guys all so very much.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.